We want to keep moving and invite back onto stage Dr. Bill Carson. We heard him as part of the panel already. In that sense, I just want to say he is the president and CEO of Otsuka Pharmaceutical. And what I just want to pick up on in terms of your very impressive resume, you lead the team that develops new products and brings them to market. And you're the one to create the strategic plans for the company's product portfolio. And I like what you said on the panel. It's the culture of change. And it kind of feels like, here's examples of new things that you can do and big data and the technology. So really looking forward to this. Dr. Carson.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for hanging in there. I know it's difficult to see the same person again, but that being said, your attention is greatly appreciated. It's been a great day for me because I'm fascinated in hearing other areas talk about what they're doing. I'm going to focus specifically on how we reimagine biopharma from data to drugs. I was looking at that earlier and I said, I missed a comma, didn't I? Because you could put a comma any place in that sentence and it might have a different meaning attached to it. The standard pharmaceutical industry disclaimer. So you've seen it. I can't make any presentations without that. I thought this image specifically out here was interesting, which is the idea that we are all software companies now. How can we stay current in the midst of all of the change that's happening now? This is the most rapid industrial revolution ever. And the change is coming in waves, and it seems like it's sweeping over all industries. One of the places where it is sweeping as well is in the pharmaceutical industry. Not as much as in other parts of industries as you might imagine, but we've been swept in the same way. This slide is very well known to people here. There is digital health that's happening on a routine basis. We all know about the selection at Google of Tom Insel, who is one of the top government scientists, the ex-head of the NIMH. Apple launched their research toolkit, and they have a huge collaboration with J&J. IBM Watson has the largest genomic research collaboration. So you see the software companies moving into the health space, but you also see the FDA moving there as well. And they are interested in technology and innovation, as well as how do you change clinical investigations. It's the basis of my talk. Beyond being a president, a CEO, I'm also a physician. I'm a psychiatrist, and I'm a clinical researcher. In the treatment of mental illness, there has been a decline at the pharmaceutical company level in working in this therapeutic area. Most of you understand the huge societal impact of mental illness. We almost don't go a day where we don't see something in the papers on this particular area. There has been a recent article in Behavioral Health on digital solutions as being the key to behavioral health's future. In that article, it described behavioral health being regarded as the Cinderella of healthcare. It's a specialty that's poorly funded and rarely at the cutting edge of service innovation or therapeutic breakthroughs. The health economic burden is huge, and the life expectancy with serious mental illness is substantially reduced. Behavioral health conditions are difficult to treat, monitoring outcomes is challenging, and when the treatment is suboptimal, the risk is high. all in all, it's not a happy day as far as mental health is concerned. Adherence is a major problem across all illnesses, but specifically a problem for serious mental illness. Serious mental illnesses are among the top 15 causes of worldwide disability. Major depressive disorder is ranked number 3. Bipolar disorder is ranked number 12. Schizophrenia is number 14, according to the World Health Organization. In the US, in 2010, the prevalence of mental health issues in adults was almost 20%. And serious mental illness was approximately 5%, according to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health. A number of factors are listed in treatment guidelines as potential causes for suboptimal response, but one of the key factors is non-adherence to treatment. Research consistently shows that adherence problems are highly prevalent in patients with serious mental illness. There are many ways to measure adherence. However, each method has its limitations in accurately detecting adherence as a problem. To address non-adherence in serious mental illness, we are working closely with Proteus. I talked about this earlier. The Proteus technology is approved by the FDA. It's a chip in a pill, and we are working with them to place that chip in an Abilify tablet. It's under review at the FDA right now. So it'll be the first time that physicians will really have a great understanding that patients have taken their medications and we could address the adherence problem. However, another piece that goes along with this is that the clinical trial system is completely broken. It hasn't changed. I started doing clinical trials professionally in 1988, and it has changed very little since that time. The process was very paper-based, it was pharmaceutical-centric, and patients are hard to find as they don't trust the process. Literature shows that less than 3% of patients who meet the inclusion and exclusion criteria to participate in clinical trials, so that would be 3 of every 100 patients that walks into a physician office, even for oncology trials, will participate. And that number has not changed, and in the US, the number has gone down. So we're doing fewer trials in the US, we're doing many more trials around the world. The collection of data at clinical sites is almost exactly as it was following the implementation of electronic data capture. Physicians do not like to participate because it's a burden on the patients as well as a burden on their staffs. However, we have technology, and we're not using the technology. So the most common thing that you hear from the pharmaceutical industry is that we are a regulated industry. We have to worry about patient privacy, so we can't change the way that we're doing what we do. Now, let's contrast that to how people got here for this meeting. The airline industry, as well as the hotel industry, it's no longer paper-based. It's all digital. And it's an industry where safety, security, privacy are all important. And they've adopted changes to improve the outcomes. We should do the same for the pharmaceutical industry. We should do the same for pharmaceutical trials. The relationship with Proteus has been incredibly interesting. At the bottom there, it's a road. cliffs, hills, there's been blizzards. The vision hasn't been clear. But as most of you know, the FDA is reviewing their descriptor, digital medicine. One of the major aspects is the cultural differences between the two companies. So, for example, I'm not sure that Proteus would like all of my characterizations, but a startup versus a well-established company, a technology versus a pharma company, a small versus a larger company, a liberal versus a conservative company. And the approach to regulatory differs completely. Most devices go to CDER, most drugs go to CDRH. We have had challenges specifically at the alliance level. However, we've been able to make it through those challenges because we had a strong collaboration from the executive level down to the teams that are working. So it's moving ahead. However, you have to be able to see eye to eye. There are many cases where we're not able to do so. But you've got many stakeholders. You've got the patients, you've got their care partners, you have the physicians, you have the regulators, you have the payers. There's a continuous challenge and an obligation. How do we include all of their needs and address them? For the patients, will they engage with new technology, new evaluation techniques? Will they come into the digital age? For the care partners, how will this help me take care of my patients, my loved ones? How do we need this? The physician has challenges with engagement, challenges with change, busy schedules. How will this help me? How will this help my patient? Which patient do I use this with? Workflow challenges, reimbursement challenges. From a regulatory perspective, these have been the most interesting, well-attended, and exciting meetings that I've had in my entire career. It's very clear that the FDA is excited about reviewing this compound, this combination. It's also very clear that they understand that it's groundbreaking and it would be precedent-setting. So you have the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, the CDER. We have the Office of Pharmaceutical Quality, the Division of Medication Error Prevention and Analysis, DMEPA, they have a great name, the Office of Combination Products, the Center for Devices and Radiologic Health. And one of the most important parts, especially for this audience, would be how will updates be regulated? How will updates be handled? We don't have an answer for that yet. They are looking at a fixed moment in time and they're addressing the document that went into them. There's already another iteration at Proteus. So how is that going to be handled? We're trying to understand that. For the payers and the partners, they ask lots of questions. Why should I pay for this when there are other tools that are available to measure adherence? What is the value proposition? How will this help our patients? Will this save us money? They have those questions that they ask. We've heard about thinking iteratively. We've seen this earlier today, and for the Proteus trials, we actually did an all-electronic trial. And what this slide basically shows is over the weeks of the study, at every time point, there was an opportunity to make a change in the way the study was done. And this is really very, very new for us in the pharmaceutical industry. Asking patients who participate in the study, is it the right font? Is it the right size? Is it the right information? And one of the major aspects of the relationship between us is being able to say, we have to change our trials in the same iterative basis that Proteus changes the technology. It's a new way of thinking for us. It's very challenging. With regards to the clinical studies that were done, we had to think paperlessly. So these are some examples of how do we do this in the clinical trial. We used an electronic consent. On the top right-hand side, we were able to scan in all of the clinical trials. On the bottom left-hand side is the patch and the phone that goes along with the technology and the readout. And at the bottom right, all the information shows up electronically in real time. So we've gotten blessings from the FDA with regards to this. There's 2014 e-consent, e-pro, e-source guidance documents. Those things have been very, very helpful to get from a regulator. We've seen this slide before, which is about how do you integrate and how do you get data in real time. For us in the study, an example of what happened, the clinical monitor was in Maine. The clinical monitor could see the e-consent being completed. So it was encrypted. There was no patient data. Then you could see the chart, the e-source chart being checked out. You could watch the drug be ingested. This was being done 6,000 miles and 3 time zones away, but the monitor was able to see it in real time. But we have to pull this all together. We have to integrate this, and it can't be what we traditionally get are things which are done in weeks or months. We also have to bring together structured and unstructured data using both imaging technology as well as wearable technologies. And we have to get the information back to the patient, to the caregiver. How do they navigate this information when they see it? This is the dashboard, and the question for the dashboard is how do you give those nuggets of information to the stakeholders? It's got fictitious data in there, but this is actually how it looks. And when I was talking about the heat maps earlier, the bottom parts of the slide are the heat maps for the patients in the study. So you can see where the huge amount of data came forward in this particular trial. One of the things that we're asked questions about, are we able to predict relapse? And how are we able to use the predictive analytics when we're doing these trials? An example of one of our presentations, but we also have publications. We have been very good about getting out there ahead and showing people that it is possible to do an all-digital clinical trial. What are the changes that are happening? And making sure that it's understood. So in some respects, Otsuka is at the head of the curve, but we're trying to stay focused with all of the changes that are happening at the big data level. Because we know the future is here. Medicine is being re-engineered. So we are participating in our way with regards to being able to conduct these all electronic data trials and to combine the cultures of Silicon Valley with Proteus and Otsuka being representative of the pharma industry. What do I see as the key learnings? How we're doing clinical trials is changing. We're leveraging technology to increase the efficiency and precision, reduce costs, and achieve a broader risk. We have to be agile in how we approach trials, the processes as well as the execution. And it leads to how do you change pharma? We can no longer ask the questions, how can we? Or why wouldn't we? And we have to change our way of thinking and go to, getting out of the mindsets of why would we do that, or there's no way that we can. I had a meeting during the JP Morgan conference with many technology companies, and one of the things that was appreciated is that as our company, we're known for working with technology companies and saying, how can we do this differently versus just putting a roadblock up. The Internet of Things is coming to clinical research, and we should be ready to adopt it. It's the beginning of the journey towards digital medicines. So thank you very much for your attention.